So before we go into any pattern size or the way that we're going to do these patterns, I want to go over the ictus and how to hit the beat to be as firm as possible in the cut time pattern. To begin, I'm going to go over a very basic 2-4 pattern. This pattern is just an up and down motion. We're going to have down force and then goes right back up after a freeze. So we have the down motion, freeze, and then up. I'm going to demonstrate now. It should look like this. That way, my hands are at the comfortable position of my regular conducting pattern, but they're just going up and down. Click, 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 as opposed to 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. As the pattern and the tempo gets faster and faster, we can't keep up with the regular focal pattern, so we need to use this drier pattern to convey the faster tempo. In order to get that firm ictus that I was showing just a minute ago, we want to make sure that we're hitting it with a very, very clear intention. So the way that I like to imagine my hitting the ictus in a cut time pattern is by engaging my forearm and a bit of my bicep muscles to get that very, very clear hit. On the downbeat, I'm thinking of engaging right here. As soon as the beat hits on that freeze motion, I'm going to engage my forearm and my bicep so that my entire arm freezes on the beat. It looks like this. You'll notice sometimes, even whenever I'm doing it very slow, that my entire body might shake a little bit. This is totally okay. It's what we want to be super clear to everyone 100 yards away from us on the football field. A strategy that I like to use to practice this firm technique and the hitting of the ictus is to tense my arms like this, tension and release over a period of time, just to get comfortable in this regular position so that I know exactly what it feels like to engage those muscles. Tension is usually a negative word, but in this sense, it's just kind of feeling exactly what that engagement is every single time I hit the beat. That way it stops exactly on the beat, and then I go right back up. You'll see as I do the motion, especially with this 2-4 pattern, is that I do a little bit of a flick. As soon as I freeze, I flick to get the next beat. So it should be click, 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 click. Every single thing I do is on the beat. The freeze is on the beat, and the flick is on the beat. So it goes like this. Click, click, freeze, flick, freeze, flick, freeze, flick, freeze, flick. If we try and hit checkpoints like ictus on beat 1 and at the top on beat 2, it's never going to be clear enough. We have to make sure that we're hitting it as soon as we leave the motion. So you can honestly think about it as hit, leave, freeze, leave, freeze, leave. As we get into the patterns, you'll see what I mean. I'm going to start explaining the 4-4 cut time pattern. This pattern is very similar to our regular 4-4 pattern, except we eliminate the third beat. It looks like this. You're going to go inwards with both of your hands on beats 2, or really what is beat 3 in this fast tempo, and then back up on beat 4. It looks like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. In this style, it's very clear exactly when beat 1 is, because it's on the downbeat here on your ictus. And it's very, very clear when this beat 3, which is the other strong beat in the measure, is right here in the middle. As I explained earlier, what we read as a member when we're watching conducting is the leaving motion rather than where it's at each time. Because when you think about it, if the tempo is 210 beats per minute, we're not going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. The members aren't looking here, here, and here. They're looking 1, leave, 3, 4, 1, leave, 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 right? And so it makes a very, very smooth but firm style of conducting. Next, I'd like to go over the 3-4 pattern of conducting in cut time rather than the 4-4. So for 4-4, we have a very box-like motion. 1, 2, 3, 4. For 3-4, you can think of it as more of a triangle. 1, 2, 3, 1. I'm going to draw this on the board as this shape. We want to make sure, even in my drawing, I did it a little wonky, but we want to make sure that the outward motion on the bottom is a very, very straight line path, like you're sliding your hands across the table, and then everything else is a freeze motion. So it looks a little bit like this. You see as I'm going down, freezing right on beat 1, out to beat 2, like a tabletop, sliding my hands on the table, and then up to beat 3, immediately back to beat 1. As the tempo increases and the tempo gets faster and faster, we're going to have this a little bit smoother, but we want to try and keep a very firm beat every single time. It looks like this. You'll also notice in my 3/4 pattern that both of my hands, as opposed to being out here, are slightly more inward. They're not going to be touching, but they're going to be a little bit like this, kind of like whenever you're playing football. That way, whenever we have this smaller and faster pattern, we have more room to go out, so that whenever we're, like for example, if we were to do it in the regular 4/4 pattern, where our arms are more wide, we would be going like this, which gives us a lot less room to increase the tempo. If we have a piece at 210 beats per minute, we want to make sure our pattern can be small enough to where we can do it in that time, and we're not wasting energy or going too big to where we can't even keep up with the tempo. I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate all 3 of the patterns one more time so that we're super comfortable with each of them individually. So this is the 2/4 pattern, just up and down, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, freeze, flick, freeze, flick, freeze, flick, freeze. That's the 2/4 pattern. Super straight, very basic. You can also do a variation where it's inward, same exact thing. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. This is super helpful whenever we're learning mixed meter stuff, which we'll get to later on. But right now, stick to the 1, 2, up and down. Next, we went over 4/4. Basically the exact same thing, except you're adding an inward beat to show that the meter is in 4/4 rather than 2/4, like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Leave, freeze, leave, 1, leave, freeze, leave, 1. Notice again how every single beat, my hands are either leaving or they're freezing on a beat. They're not trying to get to the beat ahead of it sooner or later than that. The last pattern we went over is 3/4, which is this triangle shape on the board. You go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Maintain a very flat tabletop surface, sliding across it like it's a table, and then also making sure we freeze very firmly on every single beat so it's super clear and concise. It looks like this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. An added tip for this pattern is to think of it, if you're sliding to the second beat, as though you're hitting a wall. I like to think of it as if I'm smacking a wall. That way my hand is exactly parallel with the front, so I'm not going super far out. We don't want this. We want to make sure that we're very concise and very clear in this triangle shape.